Bobby Wagner has been cut by the Rams. We're already seeing the Seahawks media going absolutely crazy to try and get him positioned to have him re-signed by the Seahawks. My thought on that is no, 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 no. Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Listen, I love Bobby Wagner, but I mean, it'd be better than than what we had this year because our linebackers were pretty garbage. But I mean, honestly, I think it's time to move on. And I think that ship has sailed, and I don't think Bobby wants to come back. I mean, the way he's talked about the Seahawks, like, and the disrespect he feels from us, I don't think he's coming back to us anyway. So we can just put that to bed now.
Adam?
Rob, if you can't win, then at least do numbers, all right, on your contacts, on your page. Get the content numbers up. And as I said to you on private message, I want you to live record yourself when Bobby Wagner re-signs with the Seahawks, because you'll do 1 million hits like in half an hour. And if the Seahawks can't win, at least drive some traffic to the page, as far as I'm concerned. So, if you're not going to win with style that will draw people to see our reactions, because hey, someone's got to win, and it might as well be us if it can't be the team.
The problem is, though, Adam, is if you use certain swear words, you get demonetized. So I'm not sure that we'd make anything out of it. Listen, to be really respectful to Bobby Wagner, it's not a case of disliking Bobby Wagner or having any negative thoughts on a great career in Seattle, but it was time to move on last year. It was time to move on. A reminder that, and we had this conversation a lot a year ago when we were talking about the future of Bobby Wagner, but I had a former NFL linebacker actually break down the film for me. It was quite a privilege to sort of see him do that and explain just how poorly Wagner was playing in 2021. And he was right. When I actually went back and looked at, you could get the old Game Pass is changing in this country and the zones taking over. So I'm not sure whether we're going to get the old 22 after this year. But you could go and watch the all 22. And he said, go and watch this game, this game, this game. Went and watched it, and he was absolutely right that Bobby Wagner was it looked as if he was avoiding contact. He was not attacking screens. All you have to do is go and watch Levante David at Tampa Bay and see how he still plays, even at his age. I think he's 32 now, compared to how Bobby Wagner was playing. And there is a marked difference between the two. Now, I thought in the games when I only watched Wagner play against Seattle, I thought he brought his A game in those two games and looked like he was really up for it and really intense. That's not a surprise against his old team. And by all accounts, PFF gave him a fantastic grade for his play for the Rams last year. I suspect he may have been trying to prove a point, having been released by the Seahawks, and it was all going a bit wrong, and he kind of upped his game there. I'm not sure bringing him back to Seattle you're going to end up with elite, top-level Bobby Wagner. And for the Rams to sort of just move on after 1 year and say, despite all of the PFF grades and all of that, we don't want to keep you here. We need to save some money, and you're giving me the way that we save money. Doesn't that just speak volumes, Robbie, to where he's at? And Bobby Wagner should stay as a player who gives us great memories and a great time in Seattle, but you can't keep looking back to the past. Sometimes I wonder with, certain areas of the Seattle media and the fan base, they'd rather have nice fields than actually have a winning football team. They want to feel good and warm inside about Bobby Wagner coming back, when really what we should be doing is what's going to make Seattle a contender over the next 2 or 3 years, and a short-term return for Bobby Wagner is not going to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we need some youth at the linebacker position and some guys who are gonna, have that angry edge and really want to attack the ball carrier and get after it. I just feel like he's, again, like you were saying, no disrespect about. I've pissed Bobby Wagner off once in my life. I don't want to do it again. So if he ever watches this, no disrespect to Bobby Wagner, but I like, honestly, I think it's just time to move on. And I get why people want these players to stick around. I think Seattle has this kind of fascination with keeping their players and their own players, and they're more about the player, which is, I think it's it can be great, but you're forgetting about the team aspect, and I don't think he'll bring anything that will really benefit the team moving forward to win a Super Bowl. We need to inject some youth in the position and both the D-line and the linebacker position.
I want the angriest, fastest, most physical linebacker you can find this offseason. And if you can get that guy in the 5th round, so be it. I do not think spending big money on an aging player who the last time he was here was not attacking his gaps, was not playing with intensity and venom and really getting after it, who looked as if at times he was going, do I need to make this tackle? I just want somebody young, fresh, pissed off, who's going to come here and prove a point. Adam, have you got anything else to say about this Wagner situation?
Yeah, I think it makes it a tough sell to probably those of us that have been kind of naysayers on the program and like what they're trying to achieve. I think we said quite a few times in the season that whilst it may not be the path that we'd like the team to follow, at least they're showing a fairly clear plan in the way in which they'd like to win. They are looking to get younger. They're hoping to get faster. And I think whilst I don't necessarily like the regime or whatever, if they follow a path that has clear lineage towards growth and towards a potential that you can say, well, look, if they keep doing that, they might end up being like an Eagles team, like you wrote about in the offseason, Rob. If they do this, I think that kind of reels all of that potential optimism that we may have for what they're doing, even if we need a bit of convincing. Doing that would just kind of shatter that, and it returns you to that sort of muddiness, which was the thinking kind of between 2016 and 2021, 22, I suppose, where it's what's really going on here. It's all a little bit trying to have your cake and eat it too. And I think this deal would be probably the ultimate version of doing that, especially with the money that it would no doubt cost to make it happen.
Yeah, and he's been released each of the last two off seasons. That's just a fact at this point. You know, the Seahawks didn't want to pay him, was it, I think, $20 million to play last season. He then sat on the open market for a long time, you know, longer than many people expected. He signed a deal which was, you know, portrayed as this massive, like $60 million contract. But then when people looked into it, it was clearly 1 year for $10 million and then an out for the Rams if they wanted it, which they've now taken that out. He's been released. And it's just, he is a player, whatever PFF says about his grading, he is a player that has been released back-to-back years. And I'm not convinced that bringing him back and feeling like you are there, you know, you're trying to recreate, I don't know, 2019 or something. That to me is not what you want to do. You want to get young and fast and angry and aggressive. And that's, I'm afraid right now, that isn't Bobby Wagner.